The red dust swirled around Commander Alex's chin as she planted the American flag into Martian soil. The rest of the crew stood nearby, their faces hidden behind the reflective visors of their helmets, but she knew they were all smiling. 3 years of training, 8 months of space travel, and now they were here, the first humans to set foot on Mars. "Houston, flag ceremony complete," Alex reported, her voice crackling slightly over the comms. "Moving on to primary mission objectives." "Roger that, Ares Base. Congratulations again. You've made history today." Alex turned to face her team. Dr. Thomas Wilson, their geologist, was already kneeling in the dust, collecting samples. Lieutenant David Rodriguez, pilot and security specialist, scanned the horizon with practiced eyes. Dr. Lily Park, the mission biologist, checked readings on her wrist-mounted computer. "All right, team, we've got our moment for the history books," Alex said. "Now let's find what we came for." They had landed in Arcadia Planitia, a vast plain in Mars' northern hemisphere. Satellite data had shown promising signs of subsurface ice, but what NASA really hoped for, what humanity had dreamed about for generations, was liquid water. If they found it, the implications would be enormous. On the 3rd day of their mission, they found it. Thomas was the one who made the discovery. His ground-penetrating radar picked up an anomaly while he was surveying a small crater about a kilometer from their base. The entire team rushed to the site, carrying drilling equipment and sample containers. "It's definitely liquid," Thomas said, his voice tight with excitement as they peered down the borehole they'd created. "About 30 meters down, there's a substantial pocket. And it's warm." "Warm?" Lily repeated, frowning behind her visor. "That's not possible. The ambient temperature is -70 Celsius. "I'm just telling you what the sensors say," Thomas replied. "It's 5 degrees above freezing. And there's something else." He hesitated. "What is it?" Alex asked. "Movement. Very slight, but consistent. Like currents." They lowered a camera down the hole. The footage that came back changed everything. Crystal clear water, flowing slowly in what appeared to be an underground river. And floating in that water, tiny, translucent organisms, like nothing seen on Earth. "My God," Lily whispered. "We found life." The news exploded across Earth. Humanity had discovered extraterrestrial life. Primitive, yes, but undeniably alien. Scientists cheered. Religious leaders debated. Ordinary people stared at their screens in wonder, and no one expected what happened next. On the 6th day, as the team prepared to extract larger samples from the underground river, their instruments began malfunctioning. Radio communications with Earth became spotty, then failed completely. And then the ground began to tremble. "Seismic activity," Thomas suggested, though his voice betrayed his doubt. Mars wasn't known for quakes. "No," Alex said, pointing to their radar display. "Something's moving. Something big." They rushed outside just in time to see it, a massive section of the Martian surface, about half a kilometer away, sliding open like a door. From the darkness beneath, something emerged. It rose silently, a structure of gleaming black material that seemed to absorb rather than reflect the sunlight. Roughly cylindrical, it hovered above the surface, easily the size of a skyscraper. As they watched, frozen in shock, smaller objects detached from its base. Dozens of them, each the size of a car, zooming across the Martian sky in perfect formation. "Are those ships?" David whispered. Before anyone could respond, one of the smaller craft changed direction, heading straight for them. It stopped about 50 meters away, hovering silently. "Get back to base," Alex ordered, her training kicking in despite her fear. "Now!" They ran, their bulky suits slowing them down. Behind them, the craft landed. Something was emerging from it. They reached the base and sealed the airlock just as their comms suddenly crackled back to life. "Ares Base, this is Houston. We're picking up massive energy signatures at your location. What's happening up there?" Alex was about to respond when the external cameras showed their visitor approaching the base. It walked upright on 2 legs, its body encased in what appeared to be some kind of environmental suit, not unlike their own but far more advanced. Its head swiveled toward the camera, revealing not a visor but something like a mirrored dome. "Houston," Alex said, trying to keep her voice steady, "we have a situation here. We've made contact with? I think we've made contact with a Martian civilization." The aliens stopped at their airlock door. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, a voice came through their comms, distorted and strange, but unmistakably speaking English. "You have violated sanctuary waters," it said. "You have disturbed the sacred ones. This transgression cannot be permitted." The team exchanged horrified glances as the implications sank in. The organisms in the water weren't just alien life, they were something these beings protected, revered even, and humanity had just stumbled into something far bigger than they ever imagined. Outside, more craft were landing. Alex's heart pounded in her chest as she watched more alien craft descend. The rest of the team stood frozen beside her, their training offering no protocol for this scenario. First contact had always been a distant possibility, but no one had seriously expected it, certainly not on their mission. "What do we do?" Lily whispered, her voice barely audible even through the comms. Before Alex could answer, the alien at their airlock raised what appeared to be a device. There was a flash of blue light, and suddenly the external camera feed went dead. "They're cutting our systems," Thomas said, fingers flying across the control panel. "Power reserves dropping, environmental controls still functioning, but everything else is going offline." "Houston?" Alex called, desperation creeping into her voice. "Houston, do you copy?" Nothing but static answered her. "We need to try to communicate with them," Lily said. "Make them understand we meant no harm." David shook his head. "They already spoke to us. They know exactly what we did, and they're not happy about it." 10 years earlier, David had been a Marine before NASA recruited him. Alex could see that training taking over now, the tightening around his eyes, the way his hand drifted to where a weapon would be if they had been armed. "Stand down, Lieutenant," she ordered quietly. "We're scientists, not soldiers." "With all due respect, Commander, they don't seem to care what we are." A metallic groaning sound echoed through the base. "The airlock. They're trying to get in," Thomas whispered. Alex made a decision. "Suits on, full seal. We don't know what they'll do if they breach the base, but we need to be prepared to leave if necessary." They scrambled to secure their helmets, checking each other's seals with practiced efficiency. The groaning stopped abruptly, replaced by an eerie sigh. Lengths that felt somehow worse. "Houston sent a message before we lost contact," Lily said suddenly. "The energy signatures they detected, they're being picked up by satellites all over Mars. Whatever these beings are, they're emerging everywhere." "But that's impossible," Thomas argued. "We've been scanning Mars for decades. There's no way we missed an entire civilization." "Unless they didn't want to be found," Alex said quietly. Back on Earth, 3 weeks before the Ares mission launched, Dr. Eliza Cho had noticed something strange in the Mars orbital data. Tiny anomalies in the planet's gravitational field that shouldn't have been there. Her colleagues had dismissed it as instrumental error, but Eliza wasn't convinced. She tried to delay the mission, asking for more time to analyze the data, but the political pressure was too great. Humanity wanted to reach Mars, and they wanted it now. Eliza was watching the live feed when it cut out. Unlike the public, who received the sanitized version of events, she saw the alien craft rising from the surface before the signal died. Now, 3 days later, she sat in a hastily assembled meeting at NASA headquarters, surrounded by military personnel and government officials. "You knew," General Richards accused, his weathered face taut with anger. "You knew something was down there." "I suspected an anomaly," Eliza corrected, maintaining her composure despite the pressure. "Nothing in my data suggested intelligent life." "Well, now we have 4 astronauts stranded on a planet with an apparently hostile alien civilization," the general replied. "And no way to communicate with them." "We need to establish contact again," Eliza insisted. "If these beings have been hiding on Mars all this time, they must have their reasons. We need to understand what they want." Back on Mars, the first 24 hours after contact had passed in tense silence. The aliens hadn't breached the base, but they hadn't left either. Through what remained of their functioning cameras, the crew could see several of the smaller craft surrounding them, with figures occasionally moving between them. "They're containing us," David observed. "Standard procedure when dealing with a potential threat." "We're not a threat," Lily protested. "We disturbed something they consider sacred," Alex reminded her. From their perspective, that might be worse than a direct attack. Thomas had been unusually quiet, reviewing data from before their communications went dark. Now he looked up, his expression troubled even behind his visor. "I've been analyzing the readings from when we drilled into the water pocket," he said. "The organisms we saw, they're not just alive. They're emitting complex electromagnetic patterns. Almost like signals." Alex felt a chill run through her. "You think they're intelligent?" "I don't know. But I think that's why our visitors are so upset. These beings in the water might be more important than we realized." A sudden tremor shook the base, stronger than any they'd felt before. The floor vibrated beneath their feet, and loose items clattered to the ground. "That's not them," Thomas said, checking his remaining instruments. "That's coming from deeper underground." The tremors intensified. Outside, even the alien craft seemed to be reacting, moving higher into the Martian sky. "Something's happening," Alex said. "Something big." As she spoke, the ground about a kilometer from their base began to crack and split. Dust and rocks sprayed upward as something pushed its way to the surface, something massive, dwarfing even the large alien vessel they'd seen earlier. "Oh my God," Lily breathed. Rising from beneath the red Martian soil was a structure that could only be described as a city, towers of the same black material as the alien craft, unfurling and extending upward like plants growing in time-lapse. Within minutes, a sprawling complex stood where there had been only dusty plain before, and still, it continued to rise. The alien city continued to unfold before their eyes, towers stretching toward the pale Martian sky. What had been hidden beneath the surface for who knows how long was now revealing itself in a display of engineering that made human technology look primitive by comparison. "This changes everything," Thomas whispered, his scientific curiosity momentarily overriding his fear. "An entire civilization living beneath the surface, not just living," Alex said, "hiding. The question is, hiding from what?" As if in answer, the airlock door suddenly slid open. The team spun around, instinctively backing away. There in the doorway stood three of the aliens, their mirror-domed helmets reflecting the humans' own terrified expressions back at them. One stepped forward. It was taller than the others, with markings on its suit that suggested some kind of rank or authority. "You will come," it said, the voice somehow transmitted directly through their comms. "Now." Alex stepped forward, positioning herself between the aliens and her crew. "We're peaceful explorers. We didn't know about the organisms in the water. We meant no harm." The leader tilted its head, the gesture eerily human-like. "It is not for you to decide what harm is. Come now or we extract you." Alex looked back at her team. David's posture suggested he was ready to fight, hopeless as that would be. Lily and Thomas looked to her for guidance. "We'll come," she decided. "Peacefully." "Commander," David began to protest. "That's an order, Lieutenant," Alex cut him off. "We're scientists, remember? This is the greatest discovery in human history. Let's not die before we understand it." They were escorted outside, the Martian landscape now transformed by the rising city. More alien craft hovered overhead, and in the distance, similar structures were emerging from the ground all across the horizon. "My God," Lily breathed. "They've been here all along. Under our feet." The aliens led them toward one of their smaller craft. As they approached, a section of its seamless hull simply vanished, revealing an interior that glowed with soft blue light. "Enter," the leader commanded. They had no choice but to obey. Once inside, the opening sealed behind them without a trace, and Alex felt a slight shift in gravity as the craft lifted off. "Where are you taking us?" she asked. The alien leader didn't respond. Instead, it moved to what appeared to be a control panel, though it had no visible buttons or screens. The craft accelerated smoothly, heading toward the massive central structure of the alien city, Back on Earth, chaos reigned. Amateur astronomers had been the first to notice the changes on Mars, strange lights and structures suddenly visible through even modest telescopes. Soon, every major observatory on the planet was focused on the red planet, and the images they captured were being broadcast worldwide. In the hastily established crisis center at NASA headquarters, Dr. Eliza Cho stared at the latest satellite imagery with a mixture of awe and dread. "It's not just one location," she explained to the room full of military and government officials. "They're emerging at multiple points across the entire planet. These aren't invaders arriving from space, they've been there all along." "How is that possible?" demanded General Richards. "We've mapped every inch of that planet." "We mapped the surface," Eliza corrected. "But our ground-penetrating radar and seismic surveys were limited. They only went down a few hundred meters at most. If this civilization built deep enough, could they reach Earth?" The question came from the president's national security advisor, her voice tight with controlled panic. Before Eliza could answer, an aide burst into the room. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from Mars." All eyes turned to the main screen as it flickered to life. The face that appeared wasn't human. Where features should have been, there was only a reflective surface, like a curved mirror. "People of Earth," the alien began, its voice eerily modulated but understandable. "You have violated our domain. The awakening has begun." The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving the room in stunned silence. On Mars, the alien craft descended toward what appeared to be a massive central plaza within the newly emerged city. As they landed, Alex could see hundreds of the aliens moving purposefully through the structures. Some wore suits similar to their captors, while others moved freely, their true forms still hidden behind those reflective helmets. "Look," Thomas pointed through the craft's transparent section. The water, flowing through channels that cut across the plaza, was the same clear liquid they had discovered. But here, it wasn't hidden underground. It ran openly through the city in elaborate patterns, almost like blood vessels in a living organism. And in that water, the small translucent creatures they had seen before were now visibly larger, pulsing with internal light. "They're growing," Lily whispered. "Evolving, right before our eyes." The craft landed, and once again, a section of the hull vanished to allow them exit. The alien leader gestured for them to follow. "What's happening?" Alex demanded as they stepped onto the smooth black surface of the plaza. "What is the awakening?" The alien paused, dome turning toward her. "You have accelerated what was not yet ready. The cycle comes too soon because of your interference." "What cycle?" Thomas asked. "What are those organisms in the water?" Instead of answering, the alien leader led them toward a towering structure at the center of the plaza. As they approached, Alex realized it wasn't a building at all. It was more like a massive container, its walls transparent, filled with the same water that ran through the channels, and inside, something was moving. Something enormous. "The first ones sleep," the alien explained, its tone almost reverent. "They dream beneath the surface for millennia, until the time comes for awakening. Your drilling, your contamination, your human presence, you have disturbed their sleep cycle. Now they rise before the preparations are complete." As if on cue, the ground began to tremble again, more violently than before. In the distance, massive plumes of dust erupted from the Martian surface. "What's happening?" David demanded, struggling to keep his balance. The alien leader's voice took on a new urgency. "They come. The ancient ones rise." The tremors intensified. Cracks appeared in the plaza around them, and even the aliens seemed alarmed now, moving quickly toward their vessels. "Take us back to our base," Alex shouted over the rumbling. "We need to contact Earth." "It is too late," the alien replied. "For all of us." The massive container at the center of the plaza shattered suddenly, water and shards exploding outward. Something vast and sinuous rose into the air, a creature that dwarfed everything around it, its skin translucent like the smaller organisms but now pulsing with blinding light. And as it rose, its consciousness seemed to expand outward. Alex felt a pressure in her mind, alien thoughts pushing against her own, images and emotions not meant for human comprehension. The first ones awaken, the alien leader said, falling to its knees. And they remember. Behind them, more of the massive creatures were emerging across the landscape, rising from beneath the Martian soil like leviathans from an ancient sea. Remember what? Lily asked, her voice barely a whisper. The alien turned its reflective dome toward them. For the first time, the surface rippled and became transparent, revealing the face beneath, not so different from their own, yet unmistakably alien. They remember Earth, it said simply. Where they were born. Where they were driven away. And now they return. Alex's mind reeled at the alien's words. Earth? That's impossible. We would have known if creatures like this existed on our planet. The alien, now revealed to have an almost humanoid face with large, pupilless eyes, regarded her with what seemed like pity. Your kind has existed for a mere instant. The first ones swam Earth's oceans when your ancestors were still clinging to trees. When the great cold came, they fled to the stars, carrying us, their guardians, with them. Another violent tremor shook the plaza, sending cracks racing through the black material beneath their feet. Above them, more of the massive luminescent creatures continued to rise, their bodies undulating against the Martian sky. We need to warn Earth, David said urgently. If these things are planning to return, they will not listen to warnings, the alien interrupted. The memory of exile burns eternal. They will reclaim what was theirs. Thomas stepped forward, scientific curiosity overriding his fear. But how? Mars is nothing like Earth. Different atmosphere, different gravity? How could they possibly? He never finished his sentence. A deafening crack split the air as one of the massive creatures descended directly above them. Up close, its translucent skin revealed complex internal structures pulsing with light and energy. What Alex had initially taken for a single organism, she now realized was a colony, millions of the smaller creatures they'd first discovered, organized into a vast, singular intelligence. The pressure in her mind intensified, images flooding her consciousness, ancient oceans, strange prehistoric landscapes, and then something else. Blueprints, schematics, technological designs far beyond human understanding. They're not just returning, she gasped, understanding dawning. They're terraforming. They're going to transform Mars into a new Earth. The alien leader inclined its head. The first phase has already begun. As if to confirm this, the sky above them began to change. The thin Martian atmosphere, normally a pale dusty orange, was taking on a bluish tint. Water vapor, released from massive underground reservoirs, was condensing in clouds overhead. This is impossible, Lily whispered. Terraforming takes centuries, even with our most advanced theoretical models. For humans, the alien corrected. The first ones reshape worlds at will. It is why they were feared, why they were driven away, and why they have hidden, gathering strength, waiting for the perfect moment to return. A new tremor shook the ground. Different from the others, sharper, more localized. The alien leader turned suddenly, alarm visible even on its strange features. Something approaches, it said that I end the distance. A plume of dust was rising, not from beneath the ground, but moving across the surface. As it drew closer, Alex recognized the distinctive shape of a rover. A human rover. That's impossible, Thomas said. Our mission was the only one on Mars. The alien leader made a gesture, and several of its companions moved toward the approaching vehicle, weapons materializing in their hands. Stop! Alex shouted. It's human. It might be a rescue mission. No human rescue could reach Mars so quickly, the alien replied coldly. The rover skidded to a halt at the edge of the plaza. It was larger than standard exploration models, heavily modified with equipment Alex didn't recognize. The hatch opened, and a figure in a spacesuit emerged, hands raised in a universal gesture of peace. Identify yourself. David called over the open comm channel. The figure reached up and removed its helmet. The face beneath was human, an older man with weathered features and eyes that held a strange intensity. Dr. Richard Harlow, he replied. Ares 5. Alex felt a chill run through her. That's not possible. Ares 5 isn't scheduled to launch for another 3 years. Harlow's expression hardened. That was the public timeline. The real mission launched 6 months before yours, Commander Chin. Black budget, classified at the highest levels. Why? Alex demanded. Because we knew, Harlow said simply. We've always known what was hiding here. The revelation hit Alex like a physical blow. Behind her, she heard Thomas swear softly. You knew about the aliens? About these creatures? Lily asked, disbelief evident in her voice. Not just knew about them, Harlow replied. We've been communicating with them for decades. Since the Viking landers first detected anomalous signals in 1976. The alien leader had gone completely still. You are not the human we know, it said to Harlow. Our agreement was with another. Plans change, Harlow replied coldly. Then, to the stunned Ares crew, did you really think your mission was about science? You were bait. Designed to flush them out, to force them to reveal themselves before they were ready. Alex felt sick. You used us? For what? To save humanity, Harlow said, as if it were obvious. These creatures aren't refugees or explorers. They're conquerors. They didn't flee Earth. They were driven out, after nearly wiping out all other life. Ancient human civilizations united to force them off-world. Now they want to return. The alien leader made a sound, something between a laugh and a hiss. Your kind always twists the truth to serve your needs. It was your ancestors who nearly destroyed Earth, just as you damage it now. The first ones simply wished to reclaim their home and restore balance. And eliminate humanity in the process, Harlow countered. The massive creature hovering above them pulsed brighter, the pressure in Alex's mind becoming almost unbearable. Images of destruction flashed through her consciousness, but were they Earth's destruction or Mars? Past or future? She couldn't tell. Whatever the truth is, Alex said, fighting to remain focused, we need to stop this conflict before it begins. There must be a way to coexist. Harlow's laugh was bitter. Naive. That's why they chose you, Commander. Your idealism. Your willingness to believe the best even when faced with extinction. From his rover, he retrieved what looked like a small metal cylinder. Luckily, we came prepared. Recognition dawned on the alien leader's face. A quantum resonator. You would destroy this entire world. If necessary, Harlow replied. Better Mars than Earth. The alien guards raised their weapons, but Harlow held up the device. I wouldn't. This triggers automatically if my vital signs cease. Above them, the massive first one descended lower, its luminous body pulsing with increasing intensity. The pressure in Alex's mind shifted, becoming something more focused, almost like communication. Choice. A voice that wasn't a voice seemed to say within her thoughts. Balance requires choice, and suddenly, Alex understood what was happening. Why her crew had been brought here. Why she was experiencing these visions. They weren't just witnesses to this confrontation. They were the deciding factor. The alien leader turned to her, confirmation in its strange eyes. The first ones have chosen you, human. To judge which path is true. Restoration or destruction. The choice must be made now, before the awakening completes. All around them, Mars continued its rapid transformation. Water was flowing freely across the surface now, and the sky grew increasingly Earth-like. The massive creatures, the first ones, hovered expectantly, their ancient consciousness focused on the humans caught between worlds. Don't listen to them, Harlow warned, his finger poised over the device's trigger. They're manipulating you. This is what they do, twist minds until you can't tell truth from lies. Alex looked from Harlow to the alien leader, then up at the enormous beings reshaping Mars before her eyes. The fate of two worlds now rested on a decision she never asked to make, and time was running out. Alex felt the weight of impossible choice bearing down on her. Two worlds, two histories, two futures, all hanging in the balance of a decision she was never prepared to make. The massive first ones pulsed overhead, their consciousness pressing against her mind, while Harlow's finger hovered over the trigger that could destroy everything. There's something wrong with both versions of this story, she said finally, looking between Harlow and the alien leader. If these beings were so dangerous, why hide them instead of destroying them? And if they only want peace, why prepare for a return to Earth in secret? The alien leader's large eyes narrowed. Perceptive, for a human. The truth is complex. The truth, Thomas interrupted suddenly, is in the water. He had been analyzing readings on his suit's computer, face illuminated by the soft blue glow. The molecular structure, it's changing everything it touches. Not just terraforming Mars. It's harmonizing it. What are you talking about? David demanded. Thomas looked up, excitement overriding fear. These organisms aren't just living in the water, they are the water, in a sense. An entirely different form of collective consciousness. They don't terraform by force, they adapt environments to support all forms of life simultaneously. Lily moved to look at his readings. He's right. The Martian soil where this water has touched, it's not becoming Earth-like. It's becoming something new. Something that could support both their biology and ours. Harlow's expression hardened. That's exactly what they want you to believe. These creatures consumed entire species on ancient Earth. We have the fossil evidence, mass extinctions that coincide with their presence. Or, Alex suggested, a realization dawning, those extinctions happened after they left. When Earth's ecosystem lost whatever ants they provided. The pressure in her mind shifted, images flowing faster now, ancient oceans teeming with life, symbiotic relationships between species, then upheaval, conflict, and finally, departure. Not an exile, but a withdrawal. A decision to leave rather than participate in violence. You didn't come here to reclaim Earth, she said to the alien leader, understanding at last. You came here to escape it. To build something new. The alien inclined its head slightly. The first ones seek harmony, not dominance. When your ancestors chose conflict, they withdrew to preserve peace. Mars became their sanctuary. Then why prepare to return now? David asked. Because Earth is dying, the alien replied simply. Your oceans acidify. Your atmosphere warms. The balance falls away. The first ones sense this across the void between worlds. They prepare not to conquer, but to restore. Harlow laughed bitterly. Convenient story. Earth's environmental problems solved by the timely return of ancient saviors. Too perfect, isn't it? They're manipulating you, Commander. Alex looked at the quantum resonator in Harlow's hand. And your solution is what? Destruction? How does that save Earth? It buys us time, Harlow insisted. Time to solve our own problems without alien interference. Or time to make them worse, Lily said quietly. The sky above had transformed completely now, a swirl of blue and white clouds forming where the thin Martian atmosphere had been hours earlier. The first ones continued their work, their massive bodies weaving complex patterns overhead. Alex made her decision. I don't believe either of you completely, she said. But I know this. Destroying a world to save another isn't the answer. Never has been. She turned to her team. Lily, Thomas, what exactly happens when this water interacts with living tissue? Human tissue? Thomas checked his readings again. It appears to adapt to and enhance existing biological structures. It's why the Martian soil is changing so rapidly. But direct contact with humans? I don't know. The water remembers all life it has touched, the alien leader said. It would recognize your form. It would understand you. And communicate. Alex pressed. After a fashion. Alex moved toward the nearest channel where the luminous water flowed. Harlow stepped forward, alarm evident on his face. Don't do it, Commander. This is exactly what they want. Maybe, Alex replied calmly. But I need to know the truth. Not your version, not theirs. The truth. Before anyone could stop her, she knelt beside the flowing channel and removed her glove. Alex, no. David shouted, lunging forward. Too late. Her hand broke the surface of the water. The effect was immediate and overwhelming. Light raced up her arm in luminous veins, and her mind exploded with sensation. Not just images now, but complete understanding. The history of Earth and Mars, the true nature of the first ones, the symbiotic relationship between worlds that had been broken eons ago. She saw the ancient Earth, when the first ones had maintained balance in the primordial oceans. Not conquerors, but caretakers, living regulators of a complex ecosystem. When early humans had emerged and begun reshaping the planet, the first ones had withdrawn rather than oppose them, taking their guardians, the humanoid aliens, with them to Mars. For millions of years, they had watched and waited, building their civilization beneath the Martian surface, hoping humanity would find balance on its own. Only in recent decades, as Earth's environmental systems began to collapse, had they considered intervention. Alex saw something else too. Harlow wasn't acting alone. Behind him stood powerful interests on Earth who knew about the Martian civilization, who feared not destruction but obsolescence. The loss of control, of power, of wealth built on the very industries threatening Earth's stability. "They're not invaders," she gasped, the light pulsing through her veins. "They're the immune system of the planets. They maintained Earth's balance before we evolved. They could do it again." Harlow's face contorted with rage. "You've been compromised." He raised the quantum resonator. "I won't let them take Earth." David moved with military precision, tackling Harlow before he could activate the device. They struggled on the ground, the resonator skittering across the black surface of the plaza. The alien leader made no move to retrieve it. Instead, it watched Alex with something like wonder. "You understand now," it said. "The first choice." Alex nodded, her mind still flooded with knowledge beyond human comprehension. The choice isn't whether they should return to Earth. It's whether humanity is ready to share stewardship of our world. Above them, the first ones descended lower, their massive forms creating a canopy of living light. The water flowing through the channels began to pulse in rhythm with their movements. "The cycle completes," the alien leader said. "The awakening fulfills itself. What is your choice, human?" Alex looked at her team, Thomas and Lily watching with scientific wonder, David still restraining a struggling Harlow. Then at Mars itself, transforming before her eyes into something neither Earth nor Mars, but a perfect blend of both. "Partnership," she said firmly. "Not conquest, not withdrawal, cooperation. Earth needs help, but humanity needs to consent to that help, to understand it. No more secrets, no more hiding." A sound like music filled the air as the first ones responded, their consciousness flowing through the water and into Alex's mind. *Wisdom unexpected. Path accepted. The alien leader bowed deeply. "The first ones honor your choice. A third way opens." "What happens now?" Thomas asked. Before anyone could answer, the ground beneath them shifted again, not violently this time, but with purpose. The black material of the plaza flowed like liquid, reshaping itself around them. "We return," the alien leader said simply. "To Earth?" David asked, still pinning Harlow down. "Not yet. First, understanding must spread. Your kind must know the truth before the healing can begin." Alex felt the knowledge inside her mind changing, organizing itself into something she could comprehend, could communicate. "You're sending us back," she realized, "as messengers." With proof, the alien leader confirmed. "The water remembers. It will show others what you have seen." The plaza had reshaped itself into what Alex recognized as a launch platform. Their original base module, somehow retrieved and repaired, now sat ready for departure. "What about him?" David asked, nodding toward Harlow. The alien regarded the man with something like pity. "He too will return with his own story to tell. All voices must be heard if truth is to emerge." As they prepared to board their module, Alex turned back to the alien leader. "We still don't know what you call yourselves." For the first time, the alien's features formed what might have been a smile. "In your language, perhaps, harmonizers would be closest. We bring balance where it has been lost." "We'll be back," Alex promised. "We know," the alien replied. "This is just the beginning." 3 days later, the Ares module broke through Earth's atmosphere, its descent tracked by every major space agency on the planet. The world watched in stunned silence as it landed safely in the Nevada desert, surrounded immediately by military personnel and scientific teams in hazmat suits. When the hatch opened, Alex Chin emerged first, her veins still faintly glowing with luminous blue light. Behind her came the rest of her crew, and finally Harlow, subdued but unharmed. As the containment teams approached, Alex raised her hand, stopping them in their tracks. "Before you take us anywhere," she announced, her voice broadcasting clearly despite the desert wind, "there's something the world needs to see." She opened her palm, revealing a small vial of glowing water. Water from Mars, water that remembered. "This isn't a story about alien invasion," she said, looking directly into the cameras that had been set up to document their return. "It's about something much bigger. Something humanity has forgotten." Behind her, the sky darkened momentarily as something massive passed between Earth and the Sun, visible just for an instant before disappearing again. Most would later dismiss it as a camera glitch or atmospheric phenomenon, but Alex knew better. The first ones were already here, watching, waiting for humanity's response. The real negotiation was about to begin, and Earth would never be the same again. The weeks following the crew's return transformed Earth in ways no one could have predicted. What began as a military quarantine quickly evolved into the most significant scientific collaboration in human history. The vial of Martian water, or memory water as it came to be known, revealed its secrets under careful study, confirming everything Alex had tried to explain. Initial skepticism gave way to wonder as scientists exposed to the water experienced the same revelations Alex had. The knowledge spread. Earth's history wasn't just human history. Long before mammals evolved, the first ones had maintained the planet's delicate balance, working with early life forms in a vast, interconnected system that regulated everything from ocean chemistry to atmospheric composition. 6 months after their return, Alex stood at a podium before the United Nations General Assembly, the faint blue glow in her veins now a familiar sight on news broadcasts worldwide. "Today, we take the first step toward healing our planet," she announced to representatives from every nation. The Mars-Earth Cooperative Initiative begins not as a surrender to alien influence, but as a partnership between species who share a common home in this solar system. Behind her sat Thomas, Lily, and David, all changed by their experience, all vital to what came next. Each had found their role in the new world order that was emerging. Thomas led the scientific exchange, working to understand the technology that had allowed the Martian civilization to thrive beneath the surface for millions of years. Lily focused on biology, studying how the memory water might help restore damaged ecosystems. David, surprisingly, had become the voice of caution, ensuring humanity maintained its independence even while accepting help. Not everyone embraced the new reality. Harlow had disappeared into government custody after their return, but his message had found fertile ground among those who feared change. Protest movements sprang up, demanding that Earth remain human. Corporate interests that profited from environmental exploitation funded disinformation campaigns, claiming the Mars mission had been fabricated, but the evidence was too compelling to deny. When the first official harmonizer delegation arrived on Earth 3 months later, landing openly in a craft that seemed to be made of the same black material as their Martian city, even the skeptics struggled to maintain their denial. The changes began small but accelerated quickly. Memory water, carefully distributed to dying coral reefs, sparked miraculous recoveries within days. Atmospheric carbon levels, which had been climbing for centuries, began to stabilize as harmonizer technology was integrated into existing human infrastructure. Technologies that had seemed centuries beyond human capability, clean energy systems, advanced medical treatments, sustainable food production, suddenly became accessible through cooperation. "It's not a technological revolution," Alex explained in countless interviews. "It's a philosophical one. The first ones don't think in terms of dominance or extraction. They think in patterns, in systems, in balance." 1 year to the day after their Mars landing, Alex returned to the Red Planet, this time leading an official joint mission of scientists and diplomats. The transformation of Mars had continued in their absence. Not into a copy of Earth, as many had feared, but into something uniquely suited to both human and harmonizer life. The underground city had expanded, now partially exposed to the new atmosphere, its architecture blending with purpose-grown structures that seemed part technology, part biology. The alien leader, who had finally revealed its name as something approximating Teleshar in human language, greeted them at the same plaza where they had made their fateful choice. "Your kind learns quickly," Teleshar observed as they walked through gardens where Earth plants grew alongside Martian species, each thriving in the carefully balanced environment. "Some faster than others," Alex admitted. "There's still resistance. Fear." "As there should be," Teleshar replied. "Caution preserves identity. The goal was never to replace humanity, but to remember what you had forgotten, that no species exists alone." Above them, the transformed Martian sky glowed with sunset colors, neither fully Earth-like nor the dusty orange of old Mars. Through the thin clouds, the massive forms of the first ones could occasionally be glimpsed, continuing their work of planetary harmonization. "Will they ever speak to us directly?" David asked, looking up at the creatures. "They speak constantly," Teleshar explained. "Not in words, but in actions. The balanced ecosystem is their voice." That night, as Earth rose like a blue star in the Martian sky, the human delegation gathered with their harmonizer counterparts to formalize the next phase of cooperation. No longer separate species with separate planets, but partners in a shared solar system. Alex watched as humans and aliens worked together, planning ocean restorations and atmospheric adjustments with equal investment in the outcome. The glow in her veins had faded over time, but the understanding remained, a permanent bridge between two forms of consciousness. "We came to Mars looking for water," she thought, "and found the future instead." In the decades that followed, humanity would face new challenges, new questions about its place in the universe. But the lessons of Mars, of balance, cooperation, and humility, would guide them as they took their first true steps into the cosmos, no longer alone. And when the next intelligent species was discovered, decades later in a distant solar system, it was not merely humans who made contact, but a unified Earth-Mars delegation that extended the hand of partnership rather than conquest or competition. That IT had begun with a simple mission to find water on Mars. That IT ended with humanity finding its place in a much larger story.